I'm Alan, AB40Z, and this is my J-pole design. It's a roll-up wire J-pole, and I did all the calculations and measurements to make it work, including fixtures. The instructions were edited by Howard and for KYW. So we've got instructions on how to build this, and if I go to the first page, what we're starting with is a pre-cut piece of twin lead, and first we're locating the bottom where we're starting from, and from the bottom we measure up roughly a half inch. We measure up roughly a half inch and give us a little mark to work by, and then from there we take a pair of strippers that was designed for this twin lead. It's got a notch so it only hits the twin lead and not any other part. So we put this in here, and what we're going to do is give it a little notch where the marks were. And we're not going to take it off right away. What we're going to do is go to a needle nose, and we're going to use that because when we take it off we want to twist it. Doing this to twist it, what that does is it gets all the strands of wire going in the right direction, so they're all wound up and ready to be used. So we turn it clockwise at the same time we pull it, and that takes it apart and makes all the strands kind of in the right place. Then we're going to clip it into the fixture. We're going to clip it into the fixture and take a little bit of flux. We got this flux in a pen, and we're going to rub some of that on. And what we do is we prime the thing, we put it on a piece of paper to see that it's clear, you can't see it. So we're just going to rub it on here like this on both pieces. Then we're going to take the soldering iron, which is over here, and a little bit of solder. Going to clean the iron first, then we're going to prime it with a little bit of solder to get it wet, because it's the flux, it's the solder that conducts the heat. Then we just go like that, and it tins it. So we're just tinning the piece of copper like that, and that's done. After we tin this thing, the piece, we're going to get a piece of jumper. We're going to pick up a jumper that's been pre-tinned, and we're going to clip the jumper into the fixture to hold it in place, and then adjust the twin lead so that the jumper crosses over the twin lead like this. And then what we're going to do is take the soldering iron, and we're going to take a little bit of solder, and we're going to tack this in place with a little bit of solder over here like that. It's going to flow between the two pieces. Then we're going to put a little bit over here. That's going to flow between the two pieces, and that's done. And then we'll go to the next step. What we do is we'll take this out after it cools off. Take this out, get our clippers, which is over here. Now the clippers have two sides to the clipper. There's a flat side and a V side, and you always want to cut with the flat side to the work, so when you clip it, it doesn't leave any points behind. If you use the other side, it leaves a little V notch behind, which leaves points that can cause trouble. So you clip that off like that, and then we've got our jumper at the bottom. Not quite straight, but it's good enough. All right, the next step is to go back to the strippers, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put a notch over in this window. Right after that, there's this window. We're going to go in there and put 4 notches, one in each corner. So we're going to put one notch here, one notch over here, a notch over here. I'm going to turn this over, put a notch over here, and another notch over there. All 4 corners. And then what we're going to do is put it into the fixture. Now this is a tricky step. What we're going to do is melt the insulation, and while the insulation is hot, we're going to strip it off from the back. So we're going to take the red pencil. I have a pencil that's made for, it's got a bad point on it, so I use it for plastic and rubber and things like that. So what we're going to do is place it on the insulation, push down so it's melting it, and then slowly roll it. You see how the insulation is rolling up ahead of the iron. So I'm just going slowly down there. And then as soon as I get that done, I'm going to pull this out while it's hot, go to the back side here, and hopefully it'll come right off like that. Then we turn it over, do the same thing to the other side. Clip it back in, take the hot iron, the red one, got them labeled red and black because they're different. Take the hot iron, push it down so it's making contact with the copper, and then roll it up slowly so you can see the copper trailing behind it, like that. And then take that out like we just did before. Take it out, go to the back side, and peel that off like that. Okay, we got the insulation off. We're going to go to the next step where we clip it back in and tin the two sides. So we're going to clip this back into the fixture, and then we're going to use some of the flux again in the pen, and it looks like it's coming out okay. And we just flux it a little bit. So the flux cleans the oxidation off the joints so that the solder flows. And then we'll clean the tip and put a little solder on the tip, and then we'll run it alongside like this, and see it just flows like that. And then we'll do the other side from here. It just flows along, and the copper almost sucks it up because the flux makes it so clean. Okay, next step. Next step, we're going to take this out of the fixture, and we've got a template over here. Got a little template I'm going to pull out, and the template shows us where to connect, where to stick the cable on. So I'm going to turn this over, the fixture over, and there's a little green spot here on my template that goes over here. That lines this up. Then we take the antenna, the coax, and we put it in this way, and we'll clip this in. When we clip it in, we're going to clip it in and line up the end of the end of the twin lead. We're going to line up the end of the twin lead to the line on the template. So that's where we start. And over here, where we started the shield to this side and the center conductor to that side. So we take the coax, and we got the shield on this side. So we're going to tack the shield right over here with the soldering iron. So we're going to take this. Again, we'll clean it, a little bit of solder on it to get it primed. Then we're going to put this right over where that line is, where that black line and the arrow is. We're going to tack this like that. Wait for it gets molten so it flows through the other side. Then we let it cool a little bit, give it a little test, and it's stuck. Then we do the same thing to the other side, where the arrow is. Just line this up and solder this down like that. Let that cool and give it a little tug, and we're tight. So that's that step. That's where that's what makes this distance is what makes up the 50 ohm impedance to the antenna. Okay, the next step is to trim off the excess where it hangs over the edges. So get a little cup there again with the back side, and a little clip over there. So that's clean. And then the step after that, we want to measure. Going to take the template out of the way. And then we'll get our pen, and we're measuring we're measuring a 1/2 inch over here. We're going to measure a 1/2 inch over here where there's a tie wrap, and then we're going to measure down from the bottom an 1 3/4 inches. From the bottom, we're going to measure an 1 3/4 inches. So let me get this in the right direction. From the bottom, 1 3/4 inches over here, put a line over there. That's where another tie wrap is going to go. Okay, next step is to put one tie wrap over here to keep that from moving around. Okay, we put the tie wrap on. We want it tight, but we don't want it. We don't want to kill it. We want it tight, but not too tight, because you don't want to deform the coax. Cut the excess off. Then the next step is some measuring. And here's where we got a new tool this year for the measuring. So we take the measuring. What we do is we take our coax. I'm going to go over here, and we're going to clip this into the fixture over here. I'm going to clip that in. Got to get that in like this. Okay. There. Now we can set this in and line up the bottom, this where we soldered this piece on, to the bottom edge of this fixture. So they line up like that. Now when they line up, if you look over here, you'll see that this arrow should point to where the shield is. That means that I got it in the correct position. That's a double check to make sure we did it right. Then the next step, is to take our clip off, and we're going to do another couple of measurements. And this is where you measure once, you measure twice and cut once. So what we're going to do is measure, let's go to the next step. We're looking for 16 1/4 is the first measurement. So we take this, we clip this over the edge here, and then we pull this out to 16 1/4. There's 16 is over here, and 1/4 is right here. 16 1/4 here. Then the second measurement, to make sure the first one came out right, is 16 3/4. So when we do the second measurement to 16 3/4, we find out that we actually have the 1/2 inch in between, and the numbers look correct. So that's the piece we cut out. So we go over here. We go over here where the line is, and we cut out. Can you see that? Mm-hmm. We're going to cut this piece out by just taking this little notch here, little notch there, and then we're going to go over here and cut out that piece of twin lead, that little tiny piece with the cutters. There's a little web there we take out, so there's a break right there. There we go. Okay, now the next step is to measure the length of the antenna, which will be the resonant length at 57 1/2. So we take again our tape measure on the edge, and where nothing is moved, we go out here to 57 1/2. We pull this out to 57 1/2. Just right over there. And let's see, I think if I hang this over the edge here, it'll keep it straight for me. 57 1/2, which is right there. 57 1/2. That's our resonant frequency for the band. Okay, now that we've got the length measurement done, we can bring this up here where the mark is, and we'll cut off the length like this, and that's the length of our J-pole. I'm going to save the old piece for jumpers later on. Then we go to the next step, which is the ballon. This is a model of what these pieces should look like. So we're going to do the ballon now. We take the coax out of, we take the twin lead antenna out of here, and then we're going to switch over to the coax, and we're going to take our coil form, and we're going to wrap this around here 4 times. That'd be 1, 2, 3, and one more makes it 4. That's 4 turns. Then we're going to slip a tie wrap. Take a tie wrap, one of these, and we're going to slip it in underneath this 4th turn, like this. Try and snake it in under there, like that. Get in there, get it in there. And then we're going to pull this tie wrap tight on the mark that we made before. This length is critical because that's the dimensions of where the antenna is measured to. So if we look at this, let's see, there's the mark over there. So we're going to try and pull this to where that mark is, and then we're going to put another one opposite that on the bottom through here, and pull this one to hold the other side together. As soon as I get it threaded. There we go. Come on, hold still. Got that threaded on there. Pull this one. Yeah, I can't hold it. My fingers aren't grabbing it. There we go. So we go on the opposite side, pull this one over here, and again we're going to line this one right up on that mark that we made before, and put this one on the bottom, and that's where we get our ballon from. Okay, so after we tighten up the tie wraps, pull everything tight, and then that's the end of the project. That's our J-pole. And then we have this has already been prepped with a BNC at the other end, that you'll have to get an adapter to run off most of the radios. This runs, BNC is for the old radios, SMAs are for new radios, and that's our whole J-pole. Finish, roll it up, and take it with you.